This is CBN Newswatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN Newswatch. It is Thursday, January 9th. I'm Ephraim Graham, and ahead today. Why did a Ukrainian jetliner crash after taking off from Iran Wednesday? Was it a mechanical problem or an act of terrorism? President Donald Trump de-escalating the crisis with Iran, but could Iran still retaliate against the United States with cyber attacks or launch attacks from within the United States? We'll also bring you a first-hand look at the terrorism of Iranian General Soleimani. And a judge in Brazil issues an order stopping the showing of Netflix's controversial Gay Jesus film. Those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN Newswatch. We want to begin this half hour with the controversy over that deadly crash of a Ukrainian jetliner in Iran early Wednesday, killing 176 people. Ukraine is now saying it believes that a missile strike or terrorism are responsible for the crash. Iran denies it shot down the plane, a Boeing 737 operated by Ukrainian International Airlines. The Iranian report suggests a sudden emergency struck the jet when it crashed just minutes from takeoff in Tehran. But some analysts doubt that, saying the photos look more like an explosion. And others point to what looks like holes caused by shrapnel like those on the Malaysia flight that was shot down over Ukraine in 2014. Iran has recovered the plane's black boxes, but won't release them to the U.S. or Boeing.
Right now, we don't have enough data to go one way or the other. Is a shoot down possible? Yes. Can I come up with mechanical failures that are possible? Yes. And right now, we just don't have the data.
The crash came just a few hours after Iran launched a ballistic missile attack against an Iraqi military base housing U.S. troops. The plane never sent a radio message about any problems. Back here at home, President Donald Trump has signaled military action against Iran is over for now, but not without new sanctions against Iran. And while the president seems intent on de-escalating the crisis with Iran, he also promised Iran will never have nuclear weapons under his watch. CBN's Jenna Browder has more on this story now from Washington.
Tensions are lowering after President Trump addressed the nation. Yesterday, Congress was also briefed on the situation with Iran. Lawmakers now moving to limit Trump's war powers. New video shows Iran's missiles launched at 2 U.S. bases in Iraq Tuesday. Satellite images revealing the damage. The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, telling reporters the missiles were meant to kill personnel. But Iran also warned Iraq of the impending attack. And no Americans or coalition forces died. Proof President Trump says Iran is standing down. But he did call for new sanctions against the regime.
The fact that we have this great military, we do not want to use it. American strength, both military and economic, is the best deterrent.
On Capitol Hill, a duel of words between Senators Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer over the president's decision targeting Iran's General Soleimani and attempts to limit the president's ability to respond to future attacks from Iran.
For our part, I certainly hope our own congressional delegations do not give Tehran a reason to question our national will.
I'm afraid that these impulsive and erratic actions throughout the world are making us less safe.
And mixed reaction from senators briefed by the administration's national security team on the justification for taking out Iran's top terrorist.
It was very well done. I think they've done an excellent job of outlining the rationale behind both the decision to go after Soleimani and the response to the Iranian attack yesterday.
It is a far cry from meeting a standard of imminent threat.
Probably the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue, in the 9 years I've served in the United States Senate.
Republican Senators Mike Lee from Utah and Rand Paul of Kentucky vowing to vote with Democrats to limit the president's war powers. The Senate vote is next week, but later today the House is expected to pass its resolution that makes it clear if the president wants to go to war, he must first get the approval of Congress. Iran says their attack is the end of it, but analysts believe there are more on the way, including possible cyber attacks, and they've issued a warning to law enforcement agencies throughout the country. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
And as Jenna Browder just mentioned, U.S. security experts are warning Iran may try cyber attacks against the United States. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips brings us more on that part of the story.
Government agencies and businesses have ramped up vigilance, recognizing that Iran's cyber troops are among the world's most aggressive and capable. A day after the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's lead military general Qasem Soleimani, Homeland Security issued this terrorism bulletin, warning of cyber disruptions, suspicious emails, and network delays. Trevor Logan is a cyber expert with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
We've really watched kind of Iran grow and mature into a more pronounced cyber threat than a lot of states give them credit for.
Texas has already seen a spike on state agency networks.
An increase of attempted attacks from Iran on state agencies at the rate of about 10,000 per minute.
But Logan says the more likely targets are private, and attacks often disrupt, not destroy. Cases in point, in 2011 and 2013, Iranian cyber troops overwhelmed computerized systems to snarl U.S. banks. In 2014, they used malicious malware to wipe out data at the Las Vegas Sands Casino, whose pro-Israel owner suggested bombing Iran. It's why places like this cyber range at Regent University's Institute for Cybersecurity are so important.
When people come to train to be a cyber defender, they're actually using real systems, generating real data, real network traffic. It's not simulated. It's not some two-station lab. It's 15 to 20 network segments and 80 operating systems working together that looks like a small to a medium-sized business.
But Logan says even if you don't have a staff of defenders, you can practice good cyber hygiene.
If you weren't looking for a link to click on, making sure that that's actually where you want to go and that you can trust that site.
And in this election year, a cyber attack could target diplomatic and political targets, much like Russia did in 2016. Only Iran's goal would likely be much more crippling over the long term. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Eric, thank you. And in just a few minutes, we're going to have a look at another way that Iran may try to attack the United States through the southern border. Chick-fil-A CEO Dan Cathy says his company is not abandoning faith-based organizations, just shifting focus. In a letter to the American Family Association, Cathy responded to criticism for no longer giving to the Salvation Army or the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He told AFA's Tim Wildman, "We inadvertently discredited several outstanding organizations that have effectively served communities for years." You can see the story and read Cathy's full letter at cbnnews.com. A judge in Brazil has ordered Netflix to stop showing a Christmas special that some call blasphemous for showing Jesus as a gay man. The movie is called The First Temptation of Christ. It depicts Jesus returning home on his 30th birthday and insinuates he is gay. Religious groups bristled at that, while the creators of the film defended it as legitimate freedom of expression. The ruling by the judge in Rio de Janeiro came in response to a petition by a Brazilian Catholic organization that argued the, quote, honor of millions of Catholics, unquote, was hurt by the airing of the movie. It was produced by a film company based in Rio, which was targeted by a gasoline bomb attack on Christmas Eve. The judge said the program's withdrawal is beneficial not only to the Christian community, but to Brazilian society, which is mostly Christian. Coming up, could Iran try a sneak attack right here in the United States? We're going to hear from one former congressman who says it could happen right after this.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
As we reported earlier, Iranian cyber attack against the United States is possible, as are more missile strikes against American troops or ships in the Middle East. But how likely is a terrorist attack from an Iranian sleeper agent right here on the home front? Are they already here in the United States? Could they sneak across the border? Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane on the CBN News Channel, former Republican Congressman Tom Tancredo says Iranian agents have already entered the United States illegally with the help of Mexican drug gangs.
Congressman, thank you for joining us. So how secure are our borders, Canada and Mexico? And could Iranian agents get in to attack us? How great is the threat?
Well, they are not secure, and Iranian agents can get in, and in fact have gotten in over the course of the last decade or two. Soleimani, who we all know now is the head of the, among other things, the Quds forces in Iran. Quds Force is a sort of extra military and in charge of clandestine operations all over the world. And we all know, we've heard about all of the atrocities that they have committed and under his direction against American soldiers and personnel overseas. But something that's been lost, I think, in the discussion perhaps, is the fact that in 2011, the Quds forces under Soleimani contacted and made arrangements with, essentially got a contract with the Los Zetas, which is a cartel, major cartel in Mexico, and very violent group. And the purpose was to help them smuggle people into the United States, which they did, and to perpetrate an act of terror in Washington, D.C., which they did. They actually set off a bomb at a restaurant and killed a Saudi diplomat in Washington, D.C. They had plans to do other things there, other embassies there, and actually other countries. That happened under the direction of Soleimani, and that was 2011. Believe me, they have been working hard ever since then to get more people into the United States. Indeed, there may very well be sleeper cells here who could be activated to do well, horrible things, certainly. They will pay up to $50,000 to a Mexican cartel in order to transport certain people into the United States. $50,000. You know, when I think it was one of the mullahs said that they have 21 targets in the United States, and the president said, well, that's good. I have 52 in Iran. I assure you that they have to begin thinking about if they do something, you know, what will be the reaction, and are they willing to pay the price? Price would be, of course, to take out their nuclear facilities, to take out the production of their ability to produce gasoline, the refineries. There are all kinds of things that you can do that are far short of having boots on the ground, which we are never going to do, but will certainly paralyze Iran.
And if they're working with these drug cartels in Mexico, what do we do to prevent that and prevent them from getting in?
This is a private organization called WeBuildTheWall.org, faithwire.us. You should go there. Everybody should go there and look at what we've been able to accomplish and what we're still working on right now. I mean, but we're only a small part of what should be done. We do not have the resources to build the wall on the entire 1,900 miles of border. The president does and should, in fact, put a great emphasis on getting that done as quickly as possible. Congress will try to stop him. The courts will try to stop him. But it is imperative that we defend those borders. It's idiotic to allow open borders when you know that you've got a threat from very violent people. We've known it. We've found prayer shawls. We found Korans. We found all kinds of things on the border. I have seen it myself on the border. We know it's happening. And therefore, I mean, honestly, if we don't do everything we can to defend those borders, then the blood of people killed in this country will be certainly the responsibility of people in this Congress and anybody who has tried to prevent and to maintain open borders, and to anybody who has created and maintained sanctuary cities where these people can hide out, can get lost in the crowd, can get driver's licenses, can get access to all kinds of things that allow them to become even more dangerous. All this is happening. People who allow this to happen should be arrested, tried. They are absolutely putting us in danger, putting us in great peril, every American.
Okay, a lot to consider as Iran threatens the United States. Former Congressman Tom Tancredo, advisory board member of We Build the Wall. Thank you for those timely insights, sir.
You bet. Thank you for having me on.
And for more stories like that, be sure to watch The Global Lane this evening at 9:30 Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, President Trump has faced criticism here in the U.S. over his decision to take out Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. But we'll hear a first-hand report on just what his brand of terrorism was actually like when we come back. Stay with us.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on The Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
President Trump's decision to take out Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was questioned and criticized by Democrats and received negative media attention as well. But people who've been in the region and seen the results of Soleimani's terror see it differently. CBN's Mark Martin spoke with Faith Wire's Dan Andros about what he saw firsthand.
Dan, you spent some time in Iraq and witnessed the aftermath of some of the terror that Soleimani and his militia exercised even among children. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, back in 2015, I was over there reporting on ISIS 1 year after they had launched sort of their initial rampage across northern Iraq. And we talked to just scores of refugees because they were everywhere. There were refugee camps, IDP camps just all over the country, hundreds of thousands of people. So we heard all kinds of horrific stories about the things that ISIS did. But honestly, the one that stayed seared in my mind was when we met a father of a young son who was in an IDP camp outside of Erbil. And he was saying, yeah, we got, run out of our town by ISIS, but what you're seeing with my son here, he was just obviously traumatized, staring at the ceiling, really didn't talk much at all. He said that they were brutalized by Shia militias who were under the control of Soleimani. These are the type of brute force that they use to keep people in line. And they actually took drills and drilled holes in his son's leg, who was 4 at the time. And, in order to intimidate and get this father to do whatever they wanted him to do. His wife was also killed in this attack, and he was burned. He showed me he had burns all over his body, like severe burns. So this is the type of evil that Soleimani and his henchmen would regularly engage in to keep people in line and otherwise intimidate, divide and cause fear throughout Iran and Iraq and other areas that he operated.
Let's talk big picture now. What do Americans need to understand about the Iranian forces and their mission in the world?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is, and I've seen General Petraeus said this as well, that the death of Soleimani was actually bigger, arguably, than Osama bin Laden. And that's because imagine the same kind of evil as Osama bin Laden, except you have the backing of an official government. And so, essentially what Soleimani did was he would go around and he'd work with all these proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, all these terrorist organizations, these militias that he'd create in Iraq and in his own country in Iran and elsewhere. And so he would just go around, and he even worked with America at times, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so, we've done those sorts of relationships in the past, and we did it with Soleimani, but then he turned around and when it was convenient for him, killed American troops. So this guy is just a terrorist, which he was labeled by the United States and by Canada and others, and his Quds Force were labeled terrorists, and because that's what they were doing, and that's what he was leading up around the world. And he traveled. I mean, this is how arrogant he was. He, confident that nobody would do anything to him. He would travel. That's how we found him. It wasn't like it was like a big operation and secret mission to find him. He was just, he was running around like Frank Sinatra and, out in the open and lapping up his little fame that he had amongst his fans. And so Trump was just, had enough in him to make the call.
Media and celebrities in Hollywood are speaking out against that action, and we understand the great political divide between them and President Trump. Why are they almost siding with Iran in this case? That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's tough to say what their motives are, but you do see it in the media. There were headlines in the New York Times recently, and often in others, calling him a revered leader, saying this would be like, killing Pompeo. From another country doing that to us, and just all of these things. And you just have to think it boils down to perhaps politics, because they just don't like the president. And so they have to find a reason to criticize this action. And there are legitimate concerns to say what will happen, the escalation, is it worth it? But it's really hard to argue that this man deserved what he got.
Back to your story and experience, how did it influence you personally?
This one really stuck with me. I've been seeing people in such need and who have been through such trauma. We saw another little girl whose family was, executed in front of her by ISIS. So that trip really changed my life because it put real faces to these headlines that we see. And, and so it's easy to play politics when you see somebody like Soleimani, and it's his fate was met by Trump. So of course Trump's going to launch controversy almost on anything he does. But to me, it's not very difficult for me to celebrate the fact that this guy is gone. I mean, I'm not happy that anyone would die, but this guy, I wish he would have lived a different life and followed Christ and done things for peace, but instead he chose a life of war and violence. And so seeing what I saw, I mean, I can just say that I'm glad he's gone.
All right, Dan Andros with FaithWire. Thank you for your firsthand perspective, Dan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're coming back with an encouraging word for your day. Stay with us.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today.
Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
It's time now for your Thursday Thankful, and I leave you with this prayer of gratitude. It's a few lines from a very familiar song. Because of who you are, I give you glory. Because of who you are, I give you praise. Lord, you are worthy just because of who you are. Allow those words to fill your heart and fall from your lips today. It will posture you with a perspective to handle anything this day may bring. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. Remember, you can always find more of CBN News programs on the CBN News channel at any time or online at cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make it a thankful Thursday. We'll see you here tomorrow.